When it comes to getting more of us behind the wheel of electric vehicles, the City of Toronto has an ambitious goal. By 2030, it wants 30% of all cars and trucks on the road to be electric. Right now, that number is only between 3 and 4%. So what's the holdup? Let's find out. Canadian drivers surveyed about making the switch say their top concerns include sticker shock over that upfront purchase price, repairs and maintenance, including battery replacement, plus lack of charging stations.
Electric wasn't really on our radar quite yet just because we live in a condo, so we're not sure how we might power it easily.
Price is a bit of a concern.
So the next vehicle will be a hybrid, and then we'll sort of see how things go in terms of charging stations and costs associated with powering it.
Let's look at some of those costs, starting with purchase price. A new EV in Canada costs, on average, just under $68,000. When you look at all new vehicles, the average drops to $61,500. To put that in perspective, the average Toronto household income is about $84,000.
It's incredibly significant. If you're talking about 15 to 20% more on the average vehicle, I mean, our market as a whole is very cost prohibitive right now.
So that's purchase price, but how much will you pay to plug in?
Where EVs really shine is the operating costs. If you're paying $1.50 a liter for gas, I'm paying the equivalent of about 28 cents.
That's if you charge at home, where it's cheapest, often overnight. If you rely on public chargers, you could be paying more.
$3.75 a minute.
A CBC Marketplace investigation found billing practices at public charging stations vary. Some charge by the minute, others the hour. Sometimes it's a flat fee or even free. So, unlike gassing up, there's still no standardized pricing at EV charging stations, meaning some guesswork for drivers. That brings us to one of the biggest issues drivers told us they're worried about. Are there enough places to plug in?
I have a hybrid right now, only because I wasn't too sure about the infrastructure and see if it actually was worth getting an electric vehicle.
You've probably seen public chargers at city-owned parking lots. By the end of 2024, there's expected to be 486 in Toronto, but that number balloons when you look at two apps that track charging stations across several networks. They count as many as 3,000. He lives in a rental, so relies on public chargers. The majority of city-owned ones are not fast charging, so to get his battery back to 100%, he'd need to plug in for up to 7 hours, plus pay for parking. So instead, he drove an extra 30 minutes to charge up at this station in Etobicoke.
This is the big problem for me. I tried to use another Tesla charging, but Tesla charging station only for Tesla, not for another car.
Some good news on the way. A number of car manufacturers signed on with Tesla to adopt the North American charging standard on their new EVs, expected to start rolling out as early as 2025. Some are already starting to roll out adapters for their older models.
It means that as the months go by, we'll see more and more car manufacturers selling electric cars that can charge at the superchargers, which will make a big difference in making sure that people know they can travel anywhere in North America.
Most prefer to plug in at home, where it's more convenient and often the cheapest. Installing a level 2 charger comes with a cost from about $800 to $3,000. Okay, switching gears to repairs and maintenance.
I got my Tesla at 2018. I'm actually one of the first ones to get it in Canada.
We stopped by this charging station at Sherway Gardens to chat with Tesla owners. How has it been?
I love it. Like, you don't need to bring it to the service.
I've never had any maintenance done in 2 years.
Experts say those savings can pay off in the long run.
So, you can sort of offset that upfront extra payment, probably somewhere in the range of 3 to 7 years.
What about battery replacements? You've probably seen the horror stories.
I was provided a quote at $50,000.
This longtime advocate says batteries very rarely need to be replaced, and if they do, They're covered by warranty up to 10 years. He says the bigger concern, few specialized mechanics comfortable working with EVs.
Because this is a new technology, for some people the transition is hard.
We know concerns over cost are one of the biggest roadblocks, so what about rebates and incentives? Ontario used to have a rebate, but not anymore. 7 other provinces do. Quebec has some of the highest. PEI even offers a free Level 2 charger. Those provincial kickbacks are in addition to federal incentives of up to $5,000. Rebates work, according to advocates pointing to data out of Quebec and British Columbia. Nearly 33% of all registered vehicles in Quebec are zero emission. BC is nearly 23%. Ontario is much further behind, still in the single digits.
That's why BC and Quebec have much higher adoption rates, because they have the stackable rebate.
So will Ontario bring back a rebate to get more of us into electric vehicles? The province says it's focused instead on boosting supply. Still, that's not slowing the city down from trying to reach its goal. About 1/3 of emissions in Toronto come from passenger vehicles. And with 1 million cars and trucks on the road in Toronto, it adds up. While it may take time to get more of us into EVs, the city says it plans to pave the way with its own fleet. But even that is years away. Shannon Martin, CBC News, Toronto.